Hello, budget friends. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa, and this is Budgeting Over 40. Stay tuned. So, you guys, welcome back. I'm going to be going over my weekly budget. If you have seen my videos, I am now budgeting on a weekly basis from a Sunday to a Saturday. So this weekly budget range is from November 19th to the 25th. And I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to put up a video for you guys to see the forecast. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over everything from what I budgeted to the actuals. And at the end of this video, I'm just going to roll right into week 5, which is the last week of November. So moving forward, like I've mentioned before, I am going to be now doing a weekly budget, and wherever the paychecks fall within the weeks, it will just fall. If you haven't seen, I do use credit cards also to help me supplement my income. My income is, I make decent money, but I have so many bills that sometimes I have to end up paying them with a credit card and turn around and pay the credit card later. Sometimes I can fit it into that weekly budget, and sometimes it has to wait till the next week or the next paycheck. So let's go ahead and see what happened between November 19th and the 25th for November week 4. So I was budgeting to roll over $100, and I actually rolled over $154.84, which is awesome. The paycheck came in just 10 cents more for $2,357.32. Hubby was under for this week and for what fell in the pay period, because he held back some money so he could, do some maintenance on the cars. So he didn't send 1,000; he sent $700. And for miscellaneous or other, I didn't bring in any other income. I didn't have a chance to, but I did get monies back from bought in favor for a family member for the full amount. So I am going to enter it in here because I am going to apply the payment down in the debt section. So that was $835.06. So I got full payment back. So I had budgeted to bring in $3,457.22, but I actually brought in $4,047.22. Now let's go right in, and we're going to go to the bills and expenses section. And if you're looking ahead, there's like an oops unbudgeted section down here for stuff that I didn't put into my budget, but I ended up paying for. So the car insurance, I budgeted $240, and it ended up coming in at $243.84, and that was paid with a credit card. Netflix, I ended up budgeting for $22.99, which is what they emailed and told me the prices was going to be. But I didn't take into consideration there was going to be tax. So total charge to my credit card was $24.97. The babysitter was budgeted at $220, which is our regular weekly payment, but Thanksgiving week was a little different. I ended up having to have my son go with her also, and I ended up paying her $250 against my account. So that's considered a cash payment. Support from my daughter at $263, which is what I budgeted from my account. Haircut, I didn't put it into the budget. I don't know why, because it was supposed to be in there and I forgot to do it, but I paid $35 to get my son's haircut. And that's about all that I spent in there for that section. Oops, I didn't budget for these, but it did happen. Car maintenance, one day on the way home from work, hubby wanted me to stop and pick up some windshield washer fluid for the vehicles. He was doing the maintenance on them, and I ended up spending monies on my credit card for $11.93. And I completely didn't remember about this. I bought some clothes for my 3-year-old. I went to Carter's for $240. $247 and a penny. And that went on a credit card. I actually do have a Carter's card that I only use to buy clothes for my two youngest. So total against my account is $548. I budgeted $745.99. I ended up spending $527.75 on my credit card. So total monies left over is $3,499.22. So let's move on down to the debt section. Now I budgeted for my half of one main payment for $300, and that is what I paid. Now the next up is half of my car payment. I had budgeted $470, but I kind of made a command decision. My car payment was paid a half a payment ahead, and this $470 would have been half of December's payment. My payment is due on the 25th, and I think between, December, my paychecks in December, I will be able to make my full payment. So I pulled this payment back and I applied it to credit cards because my car payment interest rate is much lower than the interest rates for my credit cards, and there are balances on the cards that I wanted to reduce. So I budgeted the 470, but I didn't pay anything. So zero for that. So my Capital One number one card, there's basically three cards that I have in rotation, sometimes four. So my Capital One number one card, I ended up using it to purchase different things and charge different bills. So I ended up making a payment to that card for $385. And for my Capital One number two card, I had used this card to buy my heating oil. It was for $423 and some change, but I ended up applying some rewards that came back on that card to reduce the balance. So what was left to pay was $416.87, and I paid that in full. So now this card is back to zero. My Apple Card was a card that I used to purchase the items for my family member. So the full payment came back for $835.06. I did use this card to pay for some things for myself. So I ended up making a $131.14 payment to cover expenses that I charged. For that, so that was a total of $966.20. Now my personal loan number two, which is my lending club loan, I had moved the payment to the end of the month because I didn't think I was going to get paid in time for my payment due on the 20th. But because of Thanksgiving, I got paid early. Our pay date was on the 22nd. I ended up going in ahead and making this payment manually because it was on auto pay to reduce my interest. So I'm ahead of the due date. I paid $1,059.22. Now, total debt payments, and this is all against my account, $3,127.29. Now, I only budgeted for $770. So this is quite a lot. So it's only leaving me $371.93 in my account to cover what's left. So let's move over here to the variable section. So in my variable section, I bought groceries and I ended up spending just $1.59 in cash, but I spent $191.21 on my card. So total groceries for this week was $192.80, which is over budget. Gas, I didn't buy anything. Hubby was the one driving the cars when they needed to be filled, and he did that. That didn't come out of this budget, which is great. Eating out. So if you remember and if you've seen my previous videos, I was without a stove. I do have my new stove. It came right in time for Thanksgiving, and I still had some eating out that was going on in between the time that I didn't have the stove. So Total spent in cash is $23, and on my card is $11.38. Personal, I budgeted nothing and I spent nothing. Great. And the total eating out is $34.38, which is slightly over budget. Copay, I budgeted nothing and I spent nothing. Meds, I didn't budget anything, but I had a prescription at the pharmacy for my son. My deductible is $5, so I paid that in cash, and there was nothing on my card. Household, I budgeted $25. I spent $0 in cash, but I did spend $19.99 on my credit card. So total variable expenses, both credit cards and cash, was $252.17. I ended up spending $222.58 on my credit card. For now, a grand total credit card spent in this week for $750.33. I spent $29.59 against my account, which only leaves me $342.34. Now let's go down to the savings and sinking fund section. I did send $40 over to my emergency fund, $20 to my kids' sinking fund, and there's another fund that I have going, and I sent $10 to that one. So a total of $70 that went through to my savings and sinking funds, and that only leaves me a total of $272.34 in my account. So now we're going to go down to the summary. So I budgeted an inflow or income for $3,457.22, but I brought in $4,047.22. My fixed expenses was budgeted for $745.99, and I spent $548 in cash and $527.75 on credit cards. My debt payments was budgeted for $770. I ended up spending $3,127.29 on my card. Variable expenses was budgeted at $275, and I only spent $29.59 in cash and $222.58 on my credit card. Savings and sinking funds was budgeted at $60. I sent $70 over, and the rollover was supposed to be $1,606.23, but I'm only going to be rolling over $272.34. So, like you can see here, the total on my credit card is for $750.33, and this is the same because it's totaling the bills and expenses amount and the variable expenses. But I did make some payments. So the $385 that I paid was strictly for expenses that were billed. But what I did do, I went in and I made some payments. So I am not going to count that $835 that I paid to cover the spending for what I bought for my family, but I'm going to count everything else. So the $385 that was sent to my Capital One number one card, that is to cover expenses that was spent during this week. The $416 was something from last week or previous week. I did pay it. And a total of $131.14 to my Apple Card. That was another set of payment that I've made. So as you can see here, I went from $750.33 in this pay week or this week budget, but I ended up sending $933 and a penny over to my credit cards. So all that I've spent on my credit cards in this pay week have been covered. And the $182.68, that's covering last week's or maybe even a prior week expenses. I'm only going to keep track of it here. I keep track of my expenses. I keep track of what was paid off and That's how I'm going to continue to do it, because even though I'm using my credit card, I'm using the credit cards and I'm paying them back. So, this is what I'm working with. I'm going to be rolling over $272.34. So let's just hop right into week 5. So week 5 is going to range from the 26th to the 30th. And that rollover was 126. I'm sorry. So the rollover is $272.34. I think I can just switch back and check. Yes, $272.34. Okay, so I'm not going to be bringing in any income. Zero income is coming in. So total that I'm going to be working with is $272.34. Now this has to get me through this week. So let's see how far we can stretch this. So SiriusXM is going to come out on the 26th for $7.27. That's what I'm budgeting. My cell phone, I am budgeting $294. My internet is $114. And Amazon Prime, I'm budgeting $16.28. I don't have anything in the oops section. So total of that section, my total bills is $431.55. Now, what this is clearly telling me that a couple of these things are going to have to go on a credit card, which is usually what happens. I usually pay my cell phone on a credit card, and I usually pay my internet on a credit card. Okay? So we'll just leave that as is until we close this budget out. So my personal loan is in here because I have the due date of the 30th, but it is already paid, so I am taking it out. So I don't have anything that's budgeted for the debt section. So I'm still going to be carrying over. I'm in the negative right now of $159.21. So hopefully hubby could come up with something to help me out. So I'm not budgeting anything in the variable section. I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, I don't really need anything. I think the groceries that we have will be able to last us till the end of this week. So I'm going to be carrying down at negative $159.21. Emergency fund, kids fund, and my personal fund, I am not budgeting anything for this. This is going to go into next month. So technically, I'm starting with a total income of $272.34. I do have fixed bills budgeted at $431.55. So I'm in the red, or the negative $159.21. And this is what it's going to be. So this is what we're working with for the last week of November. I'm hoping everything stays status quo for here and that nothing goes wrong. But if and when it does, because life happens, those charges will have to go on a credit card and then be paid back in December. So you guys, thank you so much for sticking with me. If you've lasted this long in the video, you're a trooper. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking around. I appreciate you guys. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe and click that bell notification so you can be notified every time I post a new video. It looks bleak. It looks like it's going to be rough. But you guys, it only gets better from here. Thanks for watching.